everyone, and welcome to the Beez Knits Podcast. I'm Jess. I will be your host. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and joining me. This is a podcast about knitting, yarn, and whatever TV shows and books I'm reading that I would like to share with you guys. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. You can't even believe how much I appreciate you guys coming week after week to come sit with me and look at my knitting and look at the yarn that I'm dyeing and just, kind of have that conversation with me. The little bit of housekeeping is you can find me on Ravelry. We have a group on Ravelry for the podcast, and you can find me on Instagram. All those links will be in the description box below. Also, I did change my Ravelry name, so I will have the updated link with the proper new name. I changed it from Bitsy Boom, which was kind of like a older username I used to use a lot, and I switched it to It's Beez Knits. So you can find me there, and everywhere else will be, like I said, in the description box. I think that is all of the actual housekeeping. It wasn't really that much, so I hope that wasn't too bad. Let me just start by saying I have exactly 0 finished objects. None. 0. I started a couple projects this week, took a break and did some other stuff around the house. I sewed 2 project bags, small sock size ones for my mom. I did not take a picture nor get video of them, so hopefully next time I can see them, I'll take a picture just to share them with you. One of them I don't think turned out as well as the other one, but one I'm super proud of, and I think they look really nice, and she loved her birthday gift, which, if you remember when I was talking about in previous podcasts, was I was going to make her one of those bags, but she got 2. I gave her a hand-dyed yarn, which was one of the kettle-dyed versions of a fall formal flannel, and those little stitch markers with the blue beads, and a pattern from Biscuit, is what I hear is supposed to be said, Biscuit yarn. And it's, I think, the Cheshire Cat pattern, and it's knit from the heel outwards instead, and she wanted to try that, so I bought that for her and put it in a little bag, so she's got a nice little, sock kit ready to go. And that's all of that. I have a couple whips to share with you. And I have a half object. If you remember, on the last podcast, I was talking to you guys about the rye socks that I was knitting with the big twist, bulky ombres in Whisper. If you don't remember, this was the colorway and the yarn, and I was telling you how much I didn't like it, and I still don't like it, so it's really been slowing down my progress. These socks would have been done had I done it out of any other yarn. So let's just show you. The last time we talked, this is the first sock. This is my finished, my half object. I was right here, and I just finished all of the decreases from the gusset. So I did all of these and up to the toe. And then I picked up and started knitting another one. I finished... Oh, you know what? Last time we talked, I might have had some of this done, actually. I've done less on these than I thought I did. Okay. Lost my train of thought. So anyways, I think I was about 8 repeats in. So I finished these repeats. I did the heel flap and turned the heel, and I'm ready to pick up the stitches around and get going. And I would like to finish these by next week. Also, I'm going to enter these into the Grocery Girls Tin Can Knits Knit Along, and I'll just go on a little tangent to talk about that with you guys before I show you the rest of my whips. First off, I love Grocery Girls. If you guys have never watched them, go check them out. They're 2 sisters, and they're from, I want to say Alberta, but I feel like I might be wrong. And they're hilarious, as well as spectacular knitters. They have such great taste in yarn and the patterns that they knit, so you should check them out for some really great knitting inspiration and just a good time. Their podcasts do run a little long, in my general opinion, but I feel like, if you've got them playing in the background while you're knitting, and then you just look while they're showing their projects even, just anything to get some grocery girls in your life, at least give them a shot. I think they're wonderful. And to top that off, I also really love tin can knits. If you haven't noticed, my most repeated pattern currently is the Rye Socks by Tin Can Knits. It is a free sock pattern from them. There's a reason that it's such a popular sock. It's super easy to make, it knits up wonderfully, and it's a beautiful pattern. So I was making those all for Christmas gifts, and they have other patterns that I'm dying to try, and they've got some, I'm really losing my thoughts today. They have a lot of other patterns. They have like the flax and the flax light sweater, so you can do it worsted weight or fingering weight. And the thing is, almost all of their patterns run from like baby to full-size adult. So when you're buying a pattern, you pay, say, I don't know, like $7, what does a pattern cost? And then you get all of those sizes between a baby and a grown adult, like, man. So you have a ridiculous amount of variety that you can make when you buy one pattern. Also, other patterns they're written well. Even the free patterns, they don't feel like they're a throwaway. They feel like they put the effort into the pattern. So check them out. Pick yourself a Tin Can Knits pattern. Get yourself some yarn. And if you can finish before, I think, at the end of the month, enter yourself in the Grocery Girls Knit Along. Why not? So that was my tangent. My next whip that I actually have been working on is a new one. Over the weekend, Boyland Knitworks is the name, and they had a sale running on their patterns where you could buy 3 and the 4th one would be free. And so I took this as, you know, the call to buy myself a couple of sweater patterns and, you know, really get into the idea of making sweaters actually for myself. So everyone's been making the Sunset Highway sweater, if you haven't noticed. It's all over Instagram, and I've just been like dying to make the sweater. So I bought that pattern. I don't know what yarns I want to use yet, so that's just a pattern I bought to have. I also purchased cabin something. Let me look it up really quick because now I can't remember what I bought. The Little Cabin sweater, which is a pullover sweater that has, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a garter stitch yoke. And then the rest of the body has bobbles on it, and then like a little bit of a lace pattern at the bottom, I think is what she said. And I just wanted to make that as just like a general lazing around the house, going outside, doing stuff, sitting by the campfire, gardening kind of sweater. So that is that. I also purchased the Tegna sweater, which is that cropped lacy fingering weight sweater that a lot of people have been making lately. I've been looking at it, and most of the people who make it, I feel, are much smaller than me. And I think there's only been 1 or 2 people that I've seen post pictures of them in their finished sweater that maybe would count as plus size to kind of get an idea of how it would look on someone more my shape. And neither of the people that I've seen are the same shape as me. So I'm still kind of like on the fence if I think it would look good. But I mean, the great thing about knitting, it's not the same thing as sewing where if you cut out the patterns, the fabric is cut and that's it. You can only, you know, try to sew something else that's smaller out of the pieces to salvage it. But with knitting, if you either don't like the way the pattern's working out, and if you don't want to put the work into it to alter it, even though they're much easier to alter, you know, between yarn weight, adding extra stitches, or using larger needles, you can just rip the whole stinking thing out and be like, I'm done. I don't like it. It didn't turn out for me. And you can, you know, you're not losing anything but time. But are you losing time if you enjoy knitting? Probably not. So that was my thought on that. I'm trying to decide how much yarn I will need, and I want to dye it up. And I'll maybe make that for myself to be ready in the spring. I'm thinking that would be a great little sweater to wear with either skirts or dresses. So that's also on my list. And the last one I purchased was Rock Creek, and it's another, you know, kind of a plainer looking sweater in a way. The whole front has got seed stitch on it. The back is stockinette, and it's got a little high-low thing going on in the back. At the hem, the back is a little longer. And so I started knitting the Rock Creek sweater. And if you remember couple weeks ago, I purchased the 1 pound of Lion's brand in the color Claret, and the color in this is pretty close to what it is in real life. So I have like a bajillion little cakes of this, and when I looked at the yardage, I didn't have enough, so I did just today go out and buy myself another big skein of it, just to be sure. I didn't check the dye lot, so if it's not right, I'll have to kind of alternate some skeins. I'm sure that won't be that big of a deal. But I want to cake that up and just have those ready to go so I can work on my sweater whenever I want. So that is that. And the progress I have made is, I feel like it's substantial but not, because my hands have been hurting lately. I've done a lot of knitting. I worked on those rye socks with that yarn, which always hurts my hand. I worked on the next whip I'm going to show you, I feel like consistently for the past like 5 days, and not got a lot of progress done. And so I had to take a break last night. I wanted to do some knitting so badly while I was watching TV, but I just knew I needed to rest my hands. And I've only done a little bit of knitting today so far. But this is my progress. So it looks kind of ridiculous. Let me see. So if I can show you how the back, if you can see how it kind of, widens out. Ugh, this is terrible. Not impressed, Jess. So yeah, that's how much more the back is than the front, and it comes to like, so this is maybe like 2 inches, and this is maybe like 4, I'm guessing. So the back is in stockinette. You use short rows to shape the back, which I like short rows, I think they're fun. And then here is, if you can see, the seed stitch detail, which I'm in love with the sweaters with the seed stitch on the front of a raglan sweater. So this just was ticking all the boxes that I had lately for what I liked. These are being knit up now on a size 8. I don't remember what kind of needles these are. They're really strange plastic needles. If you take a look, see, it's just white plastic, and there's not technically a join. It's all molded plastic, I think is what you would call it. They're super old, we'll call them vintage, knitting needles that I had gotten from my grandmother when I first started knitting. She was cleaning out all of her stuff. I got a lot of needles from her, and they're all brands that I don't think are sold anymore. And they're not necessarily the best quality needles, but when I first started, these were the only circular needles I had. So I'm using these because these are actually the only size 8s that I have that are large enough to put a sweater on. So that is that project. The next project is the most frustrating of the projects that I've been working on. And that's a whole story, but let me get a sip of water really quick. Okay, so if you remember at the last podcast, I showed you the toes of a pair of socks that I had started, and I was debating if I wanted to rip them out and put in a contrast toe so that I could stretch my yarn further. And I did decide to do that. So I had to rip out the whole sock, put in the new toes, well, knit the new, I don't put them in, knit the new toes, and then I started with my dyed yarn and continued knitting. I made it through 2 pattern repeats, and then I was getting ready to put the heel in and do the heel and the gusset and everything, and then I had realized that I made a gigantic mistake and I had knit too much so that the socks were going to be too long, and I tried to use lifelines and pick up stitches to rip out some to get me back to the point where I wouldn't have to, worry about that, and I tried twice to do that and it didn't work. So after much effort and cursing and frustration, I ripped out the entire pair of socks that had 2 pattern repeats and was more than ready for the heel. So that's basically like half a sock times 2 that I ripped out, and then I started again, and then I was knitting the toes. I was having problems with tension on one side of one sock again, so I took that one off, knit the one toe up to the point where I was going to change colors, and then another pair of needles, knit the second toe up to where I was going to change colors, and then put them both on the same long needle to continue the 2 at a time toe up magic loop method. And so that was just like a whole production, because I ended up having to redo one of the toes 2 other times before everything was ready. I was having a lot of issues, and then one day I was really tired while I was working on it, and I messed up my increases, and I was frustrated, so I just ripped it out. And again, that is the thing that is so wonderful about knitting, is that if you make a mistake, you can just rip it out. If you are unable to like tank back or use lifelines to catch it, like when in doubt, you don't have to throw it out unless you get a ridiculous knot in it and you just can't deal with it. So to that, I'm grateful that I was able to do that. Sorry. So anyways, let me show you the yarn that I'm using if you don't remember. And this is just a Beez Knits yarn, sock weight in Lightning Bugs that I have showed you before. It's got dark brown, neon yellow, and these blue speckles throughout on a white base. And I put it in a plastic bag with a slit on each side, if you can see, like so that the yarn comes out of both sides, and the ball doesn't twirl around like in your project bag while you're doing it. And I saw this on Ravelry Knitter, her podcast. She said that she had learned it from someone else. She wasn't sure who. But that's a great tip, and I just wanted to tell you guys, in case you didn't know about it, because I didn't even think about it, but it's freaking genius. Because when I had purchased Hedgehog fibers, I caked them into 2 balls so that I had enough to make either mittens or socks, and I could do them 2 at a time like that. It's because I didn't want to fight with it, and now I realize I never have to do it again. I can just make myself one cake and, put it in a plastic bag and go at it. So that's what I've been doing, and it has made my life so much easier, and I've had a lot less tangles while doing these 2. And I think that's all the actual talking about these that I have to share with you. So here we are now. I am officially 1 pattern repeat through plus the start of another. And what I'll say about these socks is that you do not need to use a cable needle for the cables. This outline of the chevron is done with cables, and there is a technique that you don't need to use a cable needle, especially for these. And I had tried to do the techniques before, and I wasn't pleased with how it was turning out on a hat I was trying to work on. So for these socks, I just wanted to use a needle, but you could be much faster, probably, I'm assuming, because then you don't have to, use the needle, set it down, pick it back up, because there's a lot of, the cabling involved in the pattern. So if you could do that, it would probably save you some time. And I think it's worth, for me to practice again, that technique at one point. I think it would be very useful for the smaller cables. And here is, in case you care, the back of the socks, just to get a look at how the yarn, because this is like a good swatch to see how it turns out. Just to see how the speckles play with each other, and how it would turn out if you were to use this on even just like a vanilla sock on a hat. This I think gives a fair representation for the yarn playing knit up. And this was, let's see, I restarted Friday. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I didn't work on them. I worked on them a little bit Monday morning. So this is 4 days worth of work. It took me a Friday night and Saturday to get the toes situated. All of Sunday I worked on these because my husband works for a university in the area, and they had an issue, a huge issue, computer related, and he was on a conference call from 8:30 to about 10, and not 10 a.m., 10 p.m., so it was from 8:30 in the morning to 10 at night, and so I didn't want to bother him, and I didn't want to be loud, so I sat on the couch, turned on football. I watched football all day. I knit. I wrote down a couple of the patterns that I had purchased because I like to have them written out on a piece of paper for myself, also because my printer doesn't have ink in it right now. So I couldn't print them if I wanted to, so I couldn't start anything or even consider starting something until I had it written down, because I don't like knitting off of my laptop. I know a lot of people will knit, off of their tablets or their phones, whatever. It's just, I'll get myself lost if I can't make like actual physical tick marks on a piece of paper. So for me right now, that was just the best way to do it. And so I made it through a whole pattern repeat on Sunday in between all of that stuff. Monday I only did 2 rows while my mother-in-law was getting her blood work done. It was very quick this time. Normally there's like 10 people ahead of us and we're in there for an hour. It feels like forever sometimes. But this time I think there were only like 4 people in total in there. So she was in and out real fast and I was only able to do the 2 rows. So I haven't worked on them since Monday morning, and today is Wednesday. Tuesday I worked a little bit on the sweater I just showed you, and today I've been working on a totally different project. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but I haven't made a lot of progress yet, so I'll just show you. I am doing a test knit for a lovely lady that I follow on Instagram. She is friends with an indie dyer, and so she wanted to make a pattern up to showcase one of her yarns. So I was luckily selected to do a test knitting. I've never done test knitting before, but I was feeling very confident in my knitting ability, especially with socks and just some general, the knitting, the purling that increases any kind of cables and like the short rows. Like I was feeling confident with that, so I felt that I could be good. And also, since I'm not like a super professional knitter, and I still want to call myself a beginner, even though I feel like I've been knitting for many years now. I just don't have a lot of that confidence in that way, that I felt that I would bring a lot to the table as far as understanding the instructions and stuff like that. So she picked me yesterday. She sent the pattern to me today. I'm doing the size large. It's supposed to be done on 1.5 US size, 2.5 millimeter. Is that what the thing is? But I cannot get my hands on a 1.5. Also, I'm a very tight knitter, so I'm doing it on 2s, and I did get gauge and stockinette, so I think that will be fine. And I'm just using a yarn that I purchased and then a yarn that I dyed because I felt like they would go well together. I asked her and she said I could do contrast, heels, toes, and cuffs, and so that will stretch this to make a longer sock so I can work more within the pattern repeats and stuff. And this is the yarn that I've showed you before that I couldn't quite name. It's the, we'll call it a tonal purple. It's from a dark purple to a lighter purple with a little bit of tan. So it's, well, I guess probably variegated would be better. A variegated purple. It's all different shades and tones of purple with blue speckles in it. I think today you can actually see a lot more of the speckles. You can see the blue shocks running through. And so this is what I'm using. I haven't named it yet. I've had a couple of replies from people, names like Amethyst. Someone else thought Trunks would be a good name. So all I have to show is that I've made it through the toe. I did all of this morning. I have to have one sock done in a week, so I thought instead of doing it 2 at a time, to guarantee that I would get it done, because I can get a pair of socks done in about 7 to 8 days. I wanted to be sure, so I'm doing 1 at a time. And I'll just show you this because the front I started a little bit on and I don't know if I'm allowed to show. But that's as far as I got. And I just changed colors. But yeah, accidentally these seem like they go quite well together. So yarn I made, yarn I bought. I thought they worked out well. So that's the other thing I'm working on. And I'm going to be working probably almost exclusively on these socks until I get the first one done at least. For the week, because I want to have that done as early as possible for her, and I want to read through the whole pattern and like knit through the whole pattern to give her any feedback about questions I have. Let me get a drink before I continue on. Also, besides my water, this morning I made myself a chai tea latte with, I think it's Numi brand teas that I purchased. They're just plain spiced chai blend, a little bit of honey, and some half and half. I made it this morning at like before 8 o'clock in the morning, and I've been letting it sit, and it is actually 2 o'clock already. So after this, I gotta get some lunch, because I'm definitely getting hungry. In my unicorn mug. So it's basically iced now, which is bonus, because I like that too. So that is what I'm drinking, in case you're curious. I know some people probably want to know. I don't know. I'm a big fan of that kind of beverage. Chai tea, chai spice tea is my favorite type of tea. So that's all my actual projects. I have a little bit of yarn that I can show you that I purchased for stash enhancement. The purple yarn that I just showed you was one that I had purchased. I also purchased, if I can find it, maybe I can't. Maybe I didn't. I think I'm imagining stuff. I thought I had another skein. Maybe I don't. Of sock yarn that I had bought for contrast. Heels, toes, and cups. So I bought the purple one at Joann Fabric. Joann Fabric didn't have a size 1 needle because I had wanted to try that out. So I took myself to AC Moore, which is in the exact same plaza. They had 2 size 1 9-inch circular needles for $15. Which I kind of feel like is expensive for such a short needle. I don't understand the pricing on these bamboo needles. But I bought myself just a pair of the clover needles like that. In case you want to see. It's just these. I just bought myself one pair because I couldn't justify the $30 right now on that. And then, because I can't help myself, I bought 2 skeins of each of these colors. And they are the Stitch Studio by Nicole Earth Tone. They're 95% acrylic, 5% viscose. They're like the big pound skeins, and they're normally $10. They were on sale for $5. So I, in my infinite wisdom of needing to buy more yarn, bought myself 2 of each of these huge things to make a couple more sweaters. Like I said, I had bought the patterns. One of these for sure can be the little cabin sweater, and another one will probably be just like a plain raglan sweater. So this one is the color Sand Dune, and it's kind of like a purplish, tannish gray tweed. These were all tweeds, and I wanted to buy 2 of every color, and I knew I shouldn't, because that also would have been a ridiculous purchase. And then I bought one in the color Coal, which is kind of a cool brown, it's a cool dark brown that leans gray. I don't think it's just gray. It's showing up gray in here, but in my lighting and lighting at the store, it definitely had brown tones to it. And so I thought this would be also a nice sweater. So I thought those would be 2 sweaters. 2 nice sweaters for me. And I only spent $20 on like 4 pounds of yarn. That's insane. That's really crazy. The other stash enhancement I have is I bought myself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other patterns on top of the 4 sweater patterns I purchased. The lovely Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady had a little bit of a sale on her sock patterns on Ravelry because it was her birthday. So I was looking at the Rhinebeck is Calling pattern and really thinking that I wanted it. And then I kind of forgot about it in the process of working on all the stuff I was, trying to get done and trying to finish my projects. And then I saw on Instagram that she was having that little sale, and I thought, now is the time to buy it before you forget again. So I picked up the pattern for the Rhinebeck is Calling socks. I cannot wait to knit a pair. I think I'm going to make a pair for Nate. I think he's going to actually really like those. I purchased the Clark socks because I just wanted to, pull the trigger on that and have those ready to go anytime I wanted to knit them. And those are done by, those socks were designed by, there we go, Jacqueline Salem from the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast. So I got those. Everyone's been knitting them. They've been very popular. A bunch of people were doing giveaways of the pattern, but I didn't want to wait. I wanted to buy it and I just wanted to have it. So someone else can, win the pattern and make them, but I wanted to, buy myself that pattern and just have it ready. I also purchased the Fish Lips Kiss Heel pattern from Socks Therapist. It's $1 to buy the pattern to learn how to do that heel. I think if you have any interest in it, just spend the buck, and pick up that pattern. I haven't actually opened it to read it yet, but I am excited to take a look at it after I finish these few projects I have going. And the last thing I purchased was the Exploration Station by Stephen West. I have been obsessively looking at that pattern for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I think it was. So I bit the bullet and I bought it so I could take a look at the pattern, really get myself acquainted with it, figure out the yarn requirements, which yarns went together, so that I can plan it out, dye my yarns, cast it on. That's the Exploration Station, I think, will be my selfish knitting project after I finish Nate's sweater, all my Christmas gifts, my test knit. Around the end of Christmas time, maybe it might be my New Year's cast on, the first project of 2017. 2018. Come on. Get with the program. Today, I don't even know. So that was all the stuff I had purchased, because I've been hemming and hawing about wanting to make them, and I just thought, buy them, and then they'll have them. And they will definitely all be made, because if I'm spending the money on the pattern, I'm definitely going to make it. Let me see my notes. Okay, so that's all my stash enhancement. My knitting plans, just finish what I got going on. My wish list is to, knit some of the patterns that I purchased. That's basically what I'm working on right now and want to work on right now. I have no new dyed yarn to share with you guys this week. I will probably have some to share with you all next week, so keep tuned for that if you want. That is all the knitting related talk that I will have. So if you only came here for the knitting, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. And if you want to stay, I'm just going to talk about some movies, TV shows, books, whatever, real quick with you guys after I have a sip of water. I've got a very froggy kind of sore throat today. I don't know why. Okay. We watched 3 movies this week. Tales of Halloween, City of Gold, and Burn After Reading. Tales of Halloween is... Okay. Quick little thing. I recorded this yesterday. I hated how it turned out because I was so tired and loopy and nothing was coming out right. So I'm going to try to give you as much information as I did last time. We'll see. Okay. So Tales of Halloween is... it's a collection of 10 shorts done by popular directors. They're all horror-themed. Halloween is the theme of it. It is Halloween night in a town, and it just shows you a bunch of different takes on Halloween within the town. The town gets very crazy, and some supernatural things happen, and everyone goes crazy around Halloween in this town. And one of the things I appreciated was that, say you saw a character in the second short, you would also see them in like 3 other shorts. So it really just kind of wrapped everything all together really nicely. I also liked how some of them were really scary and some of them were a lot more funny, some were gory. So they kind of hit every kind of possible genre and way to give you Halloween and horror. So if you like Halloween stuff or if you like horror stuff, watch this. You'll see 10 shorts in less than an hour and a half. You will like at least one of them for sure. And there's nods to other things within the genre, like John Carpenter. There's nods to Romero with Night of the Living Dead, which is on almost every TV screen when they're watching a movie in this. There's just a lot of stuff running through them that keep them related, which is also fun to see. And what was I going to say? Oh, something funny that happened was one of them scared me. I think it was a jump scare. And I jumped I grabbed Nate's arm around the, like, it was very quick, so it was like you saw something on the screen, I jumped and grabbed him, but I grabbed him so quickly that I had scared him because the thing on the TV had come on so quickly that he jumped, and it scared me, so I got, like, double scared, and I thought I was gonna have, like, a little heart attack, and I threatened to turn the lights on because I was like, no, this is too much, and no, it's not that scary. I believe the first short is truly proof, though, that you can make a wonderful and scary piece concise and done in like 10 minutes. I don't remember the director who did that one, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it was genius and truly good. And no, I don't think it was the first one that made me scared either. It's just, jump scares always make you jump, and I feel like they're cheap, but they're always effective. So check that out. It's on Netflix. The next movie we watched was City of Gold. We watched that on Hulu. I ended up re-upping Hulu for another month to try to get through a couple of the things that I wanted to watch. City of Gold follows Jonathan Gold, the food critic from LA, and it talks about, you know, his life in general. It gives like a little bit of backstory on him, the things he did before he was a food critic, how he became a food critic, and he talks about these restaurants that he loves and reviews, and these restaurants talk about how his reviews had affected their restaurants, and he's just got a really positive outlook on society, culture, the general LA scene. He kind of showed you a different version of LA than us who have, especially me who's never been there, what it's like. Thought I heard somebody. Anyway, so he just really has a love for the city and the people of the city, and he definitely makes it feel like a lot more human than the kind of ideal that I feel like a lot of us have of these rich people in Hollywood and Beverly Hills and celebrities, and it's really down to earth. The way he writes about the restaurants is beautiful, and like you can just see this kind of like beautiful love around between him and these people who own these restaurants. I'll just leave it at that. I think you should really check it out if you like documentaries, if you like food, or you like culture, any of those things I think could really interest you. The last movie that Nate and I saw was Burn After Reading, which is a Coen Brothers movie. I think the only other movie of theirs that I've seen so far was Fargo, and I loved Fargo. Fargo is for sure in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It just, you know, got me that good. Burn After Reading has the genius way of bringing you some kind of serious subject matter, kind of, in like such a silly way. They have this sense of humor that is so twisted, but so funny. I don't know. I don't know how to describe them other than, like, just the perfect mix of these things. And so, I don't want to give it away. I know it came out in 2008. I hate giving spoilers, because if you're like me, you're behind on watching movies, and you don't want someone to spoil that crap for you. So, if you like Coen Brothers movies, if you want to give one a chance, it's short. It's less than an hour and a half, I think. It's about an hour and a half. I think anything an hour and a half and less is a good short movie. When it gets to like an hour 50 to like 3 hours, that's really long. You really got to decide if it's a good movie. I'm trying to think. Brad Pitt's in it. Oh my god. I can't remember their names now. I told you yesterday. You just weren't here to see it. Tilda Swinton, is that how you say her last name? She's in it. George Clooney's in it. There's this blonde lady that was in Fargo who is just like the world's greatest actress, and I cannot remember her name. I'll probably put it in the show notes because I can't remember and it's driving me nuts. But I loved her in Fargo, and she plays like the perfect kind of character for the movie in Burn After Reading. So if you like that kind of stuff, you know, read yourself the description. I'll put it in the show notes for you. If you like it, check it out. It's on Netflix right now. I know most people have Netflix, so Okay. I watched Handmaid's Tale. I binge watched it last week just because I was trying to watch it before I got rid of Hulu, and then I ended up keeping it. I was listening to it on audiobook. I got halfway through, and then I kind of gave up in favor for some other stuff to take a break. I would have preferred to read it, but because the show came out and it was so popular, I couldn't get my hands on it from the library, so I was waiting. As far as I've gotten in the audiobook, I know for a fact that the TV show does not religiously follow the book. It does not make it bad, it just makes them different. So, if you like dystopian stuff and these kind of totalitarian societies that get set up, if those kind of things interest you, whether you like to read them or watch them, you should give Handmaid's Tale a shot. Elizabeth Moss is, if you haven't heard about this, she is a spectacular actress in it. She really shows you a breadth of emotions and thoughts through her face. That acting is just really amazing. So I would suggest at least checking out the first episode. Maybe I'll talk more about it in depth later. I just didn't want to spoil it. I know a lot of people haven't seen it yet. Not everyone keeps up with everything. You know, we all have stuff to do. We can't just sit and watch TV all day. And nor do we always want to. So, as far as podcasts go, I've been watching the same ones, kind of getting caught up on them. I like to find a new one, and then get caught up with it, and then kind of repeat the process, with especially the knitting podcasts. I'm still listening to My Favorite Murder. I'm only like 23 episodes in. Kind of taking it slow. I took a break and watched some TV and movies the past 2 weeks. Also, I thought I'd bring up books because there's no reason not to talk about books. One I got out of the library and that I definitely want to purchase myself. And it is Kitchen Table Tarot. And here you go. I got this out of the library. I have to bring it back next week. She is... Okay, I'm back. Someone was upstairs, so let me see where I picked up. Let me pick up where I left off. I was telling you about the Kitchen Table Tarot book. She is Little Fox Tarot. I used to check out her website a lot. I follow her on Instagram. She has a really down-to-earth, wonderful take on the tarot cards. If you are a tarot reader, if you have any kind of interest in tarot, if you're trying to learn, I suggest picking up her book. It is $16.99 US dollars, 1950 Canadian monies. She gives you, a great breakdown for every card. I have not finished reading through it yet. It's weird to read through tarot books like this because normally you use them when you come against a card and you're not sure what it means and you flip through and you do it that way. But as I have general understandings of the cards and have my own way that I read them, I just like to pick up pieces of information here and there from other people, just to have them, in my bag. Like, say the Two of Cups is this, but every once in a while you may see this, and it kind of gives you just another interpretation to have on hand in your brain. And she talks a little bit about actual readings too. She discusses, like how to give readings too a little bit. So I think this is a really great book, and you should check it out if you have any interest in that. And the last book that I have is a book that I own. I own it because I got married, because it was actually my husband's book, and it is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I was listening to this as an audiobook when I was still working, and I kept getting distracted from it because people were talking too loud, so I had to bring it back to the library. And then I started reading this, and then I kind of put the book down for no particular reason other than I just got busy. So I picked it up on Sunday night. I read through a couple pages. This is only about 2 nights of like 15 minutes worth of reading right here, so I'm not super deep into it. All of this stuff is stuff that I've either read or heard before. but I felt that I should start from the beginning, to get the full effect of it again. I'm super enjoying it. I don't want to talk too much about it now as I'm not very deep into it. The back says by the Minneapolis Star Tribune that it's a dark contemporary Alice in Wonderland, imaginative, well-crafted, and highly visual. So all of these things check boxes for me. I'm a big fan of Alice in Wonderland. I did read it on my own on the bus in high school, and I loved it. More so than the Disney version of the movie. The Disney version. It doesn't need to be of the movie. But there's so many versions of Alice in Wonderland. There's a reason it's an enduring tale and why people like it so much. So anything that's in that general vein, a lot of people also enjoy it. Neil Gaiman is a great writer. I read Coraline, which kind of frustrates me because I loved the book. Had I seen the movie and not read the book, I would have loved the movie because the company that makes those movies does a terrific job, and I've loved every other movie they've made. But I get upset when movies take inspiration from books and graphic novels and then change the ending. That is the biggest pet peeve. I hated that about Watchmen. I hated that about Coraline. And I just think to myself, if you're doing a movie, especially if you're using an animated movie, you can follow the book and do the ending the way it was written. I know sometimes it's harder to do with actual live action people, so that just drives me nuts. And I've also read Sandman, and he had a short graphic novel that he did that was called How to Talk to Girls at Parties. That was not at all what I expected, and that was really good too. The only other thing I have to say about the book right now, because I'm not deep into it, is that I'm definitely thinking that Neverwhere might inspire a collection of yarn colors. So if you're a Neil Gaiman fan, Neverwhere fan, keep tuned. I'm probably going to do those probably sooner rather than later, considering when I like something I can read through it pretty quick. So again, Neverwhere is what I'm reading, which leads me to the end of the podcast. That's all I've been up to. That's all I've been watching and listening to and reading. What have you been watching, listening to, reading? What's your favorite podcast? It doesn't have to be knitting related. What movies have you been watching? The good TV shows. What are you reading? I love to see what other people are reading and doing, and adding it to my long list of things that I want to watch and read and do. So in the comments, in the Ravelry group, I would love to hear about that stuff from you guys. I think that's it. I've been talking for what feels like forever. I know this is a day late, and this might not go up till Thursday because it's already 2:30 and I've got some other stuff to do today. But I think that's it. And I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another podcast. I think this is episode 6 or 7. So thank you to everyone who's been along the ride for me. If you would like, please like, comment, and subscribe to this. The more that we have that stuff going on, the more, especially I think likes, the more people can see and come across my videos. So, give me those little thumbs ups and we can share, our little community with more people, because the knitting community is a great community, and all of you guys who are following me are already super great people, and I would love to meet more great people, and I'm sure you would like more great people in your life too. So I think that's it, and until next week, bye!